Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're asking a big, uncomfortable question. Is the American dream dead, or just changing? For decades, the idea was simple. If you work hard, play by the rules, you can buy a home, raise a family, move up in life, and give your kids a better future. But in 2025, a lot of people look at housing prices, student debt, healthcare bills, and grocery receipts, and think, I'm doing everything right. Why does it still feel impossible? In this video, we're going to break down what's actually happening to the middle class, how Americans feel about the American dream right now, and who still has a real shot at it. Let's start with how people themselves answer this question. First, let's talk about perception. In a 2024 national survey, only about 27% of Americans said the American dream, defined as, if you work hard, you'll get ahead, still holds true. That's almost half the level it was a decade earlier. ABC News. Another survey from 2024 found Americans basically split. About 36% said the American dream is still possible, 41% said it used to be possible but isn't anymore, and around 6% said it was never really possible at all. Pew Research Center. So emotionally, you've got one group saying, yes, it's harder, but still reachable, another group saying, that window has closed, and a frustrated minority saying, this was always a myth. But here's the twist. Another 2024 report from the Archbridge Institute found that about 2/3 of Americans, 67%, say they have either achieved the American dream or are on their way. At the same time, 32% say it's out of reach. archbridgeinstitute.org. So people feel both, personally hopeful and collectively pessimistic, kind of like, maybe I'll be okay, but the system is broken. To see whether that feeling makes sense, we need to look at what's happening to the middle class itself. The middle class used to be the majority of Americans, not anymore. According to the Pew Research Center, in 1971, about 61% of Americans lived in middle-income households. By 2023, that share had fallen to about 51%. Pew Research Center +1. In other words, the middle class is still large, but it's smaller than it used to be. At the same time, more people are now in both lower-income households and upper-income households, so the country is more spread out economically than before. On income levels, the median U.S. household made about $80,600 in 2023, after adjusting for inflation, which was actually an increase after several years of stagnation. Axios +1. Preliminary data for 2024 suggests real median income rose again to roughly $83,700 in 2024 dollars. Fred. So if you just look at the income line on a chart, you might think, hey, things are improving. What's the problem? The answer is the cost of living. A big reason the middle class feels squeezed is that the big-ticket items in life have gotten very expensive, very fast. Recent research highlights that prices have risen sharply for housing, utilities, and vehicles, with hidden costs of home ownership, like maintenance, insurance, and property taxes, weighing more heavily on households. Bank of America. Institute housing in particular is brutal. In many cities, middle-income families are being priced out of home ownership altogether. Harvard JCHS. On top of that, childcare in many areas can cost as much as a second rent, healthcare premiums and deductibles keep climbing, and food and everyday essentials have seen big price jumps since the pandemic. One recent analysis even argued that if you update the old 1960s poverty formula to today's spending patterns, a family of 4 might need around $136,000, $140,000 a year just to cover basic needs like housing, childcare, healthcare, and transportation. Far above the official poverty line. Investopedia. You don't have to agree with that exact number to understand the feeling. We're making what should be a good income, but we still feel broke. On paper, the median income is at a record. In reality, Americans in late 2025 are dealing with weak inflation-adjusted income growth and lingering cost pressures. One recent analysis found real median income growth was only about 1.6% over the 3 months ending in October 2025, with inflation eroding purchasing power and confidence. Reuters. So the math looks like this. Income line, slowly going up. Cost of living line, jumping much faster in key areas. And that's the gap where the American dream starts to feel like it's slipping away. Now, is the American dream equally dead for everyone? Not exactly. Surveys show big differences by income level, age, generation, and race and education. Pew Research Center +1, 2025, Gallup survey found that Americans with lower incomes tend to define the American dream as stability. Paying the bills, staying out of crisis. Higher income Americans are more likely to define it as opportunity, advancing, taking risks, building wealth. Gallup.com. So when you ask, is the American dream dead? Different groups are actually answering different questions. If your dream, Yanks, own a home, raise a family, have one stable job, you might say, this is getting impossible. If your dream, Stian, start a business, invest, build wealth over time, you might say, it's tough, but still alive if I play my cards right. Generationally, younger adults are more likely to be burdened with student debt, locked out of affordable housing and starting careers in a time of economic uncertainty. Older adults on average are more likely to own homes and have seen their assets grow with rising stock and housing markets, but even they report more financial strain than a few years ago. Yeon Bang Jun Bi Jae-do, Plow. So we end up with this messy reality. The dream is not dead, but it's become much more unequal and much harder to reach if you start without assets, connections, or a safety net. There's also a psychological layer to all of this. The Federal Reserve's 2024 report on household well-being found that about 73% of adults said they were either living comfortably or doing okay financially, but that's down from 78% in 2021. Yeonbang Junbi Jae-do. At the same time, consumer confidence dropped sharply in late 2025, as people worried about high prices that won't fully come down, slower job growth, and political and economic uncertainty. AP News. So most people are not in immediate crisis, but they also don't trust the future. That lack of confidence is a huge part of why the American dream feels like it's fading. I might be okay right now, but I'm not sure this is going anywhere. The dream isn't just about where you are, it's also about where you believe you can go, and that belief has been shaken. Let's come back to the main question, is the American dream dead? If by American dream you mean buying a house in your 20s, supporting a family on a single middle-income salary, and expecting each generation to automatically do better, then for many people, especially in high-cost areas, the answer feels like, yeah, that version is dying. But if you define the American dream as having a real chance to improve your life over time, with effort, smart choices, and maybe some luck, then, the story is more complicated. Here's a balanced way to look at it. The playing field is more uneven. Where you're born, how wealthy your parents are, and what city you live in matter more than ever. The latter hasn't disappeared, but it has missing rungs. Higher education is powerful, but also very expensive. Owning a home is still a major wealth builder, but entry costs are high. Healthcare costs can wipe out progress overnight. The dream is drifting from default expectation to exceptional outcome. For previous generations, the middle-class dream felt like the norm. For many younger Americans, it feels more like something you have to fight for, rather than something that automatically comes with hard work. So no, the American dream is not completely dead, but it's more fragile, more unequal, and more conditional than it used to be. I'm not here to give you toxic positivity like, just work harder and skip lattes and you'll be fine. That advice is disconnected from reality, but there are a few practical principles that still matter if you're trying to chase your own version of the dream. Be very specific about your dream. Is it owning a home, being debt-free, building a business, having time, freedom? The clearer you get, the easier it is to make trade-offs. Treat big, recurring costs as your main enemies. Housing, car, education, and lifestyle creep will make or break your middle-class life. Many families aren't ruined by coffee, they're squeezed by rent, car loans, daycare, and medical bills. Leverage unfair advantages where you can. That might mean choosing a lower-cost city, using community college then transferring, learning in-demand skills online, or living with family for a while to avoid rent and stack cash. Think in decades, not months. The dream today is less about a quick jump and more about stacking small advantages over 10, 20, 30 years. None of this fixes systemic issues, Those need policy and collective action. But on a personal level, it can help you move closer to your own version of the dream, even in a tougher environment. So, is the American dream dead? Maybe the old version is fading, but a more complicated, more uneven version is still out there. And whether you see it as alive or dead may depend on where you started, what you earn, and what you expect from your country. If this video helped you understand the situation a little better, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who's been wondering why the middle class feels so squeezed. In the comments, I'd love to hear, what does the American dream mean to you in 2025? And do you think it's still possible where you live? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.